is living in this stunning area, really is the motorsport coastline along this part of Spain. A stunning venue for motorbike racing. Of course, MotoE returns here this weekend, the second time that the Circuit of Barcelona Catalunya has hosted the MotoE World Championship. The first time back a couple of years ago in 2021. Honestly, coming into this weekend, I thought it was last year because, you know, COVID messed everything up and made us all think that the years fly by like that and everything. But no, it was 2021, a couple of years ago now. It was Mikel Pons who took a single race victory that weekend. No doubleheader back then for Barcelona. And it was actually, in addition to the victory in the first ever Catalan round, well, he was actually Rookie of the Year at the end of that season. And of course, he's only from Palma de Mallorca, a stone's throw away from here. A few hours on the ferry from the port in Barcelona, or a short hop on a flight. But obviously you'd take the ferry choice because we're talking about MotoE and sustainability. Excellent. Neil Morrison, hi there. How are you? Incredibly humid in our commentary box. Feel like I'm in Malaysia. Normally I gloat to people and like our good colleague Fran Wild and say, yeah, no rain in the commentary box, Fran. Oh, sorry to hear about that. But it's probably just as hot in here as it is down in pit lane, even in the glorious shade there. Neil, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Matt, very well. Excited for this penultimate MotoE qualifying session of the year. And we have a couple of interesting names in this first qualifying session. Q1, of course, where we have, well, 9th basically down to 18th in the two combined practice sessions. They will face off for 2 spots, which will then take them through to Q2, of course. But yes, Matt, you're right. It is really hot, really muggy as well. High humidity here on Friday in Barcelona. It does feel as though there is maybe some rain in the air, and we are expecting some rain to come potentially tomorrow, which could be, of course, pivotal for these 2 MotoE races.
No rain in the air for this session though, Neil. Come on, look around you.
That's what I was just going to say. I said it in your ears because I didn't want to quite cut in with my first words of the broadcast to just be, nah. But it's actually surprisingly glorious. After so many wet feet that I have suffered throughout the season for MotoE qualifying down here in pit lane, it's very nice today. A little bit humid, but I think maybe you guys are suffering a bit more up there in the box because down here it's pretty nice.
Oh well, that's nice for some, isn't it? Yeah, well, fair play. I was gonna be a bit cruel and say everyone get a small violin out for Fran's wet feet, but no, fair enough. Getting my comeuppance for absolutely roasting sweat one out in the commentary box. Delightful. There we have it. We're looking at Mika Perez there, the RNF MotoE team rider. He was 16th in the combined standing, so of course competing in this Q1 session. Absolutely.
One of the surprise names that we saw just on our screens there, Eric Granado, 17th at the end of the combined practice. Quite strange for the Brazilian to be that far down. Of course, this was the place where Eric had that really nasty accident when he was riding in World Superbikes earlier this year, which caused him to miss the first round of the MotoE World Championship. Do you have anything to
Sorry,
add on,
yes, I cut
Eric?
in too early there, didn't I? Yeah, I think he had a crash early on in practice 2. He looks okay. I'm looking at him now. I think you've had him on screen, or certainly you had a cameraman next to him a minute ago, so I was hiding out of shot. But yeah, he's all okay, but didn't set a lap in that second session. He did top the test here, though, in terms of the outright lap times, and then did his classic, I'm not going to fully take part in the race sim. So I think we can probably expect a bit more from 17th once we get underway in this session.
Oh, well, that's good news then for Eric Granado, at least. Not ideal crashing. I think it was at turn maybe just quite early on in the session, turn 7. I think I remember seeing on the notes there.
I'm also now, I don't know if it was 7 minutes in or at turn 7.
Yeah,
one of the two is correct.
Yeah, exactly. So my Wi-Fi is not quite working up here in the comms box, so I can't go back to check that now, unfortunately. We just saw both Oscar Gutierrez and Tito Rabat on our screens. Gutierrez ended up 14th. Of course, he's been replacing Lucas Salvadori in the Pramac MotoE team. Tito Rabat, one of the busiest people in motorcycle racing worldwide. There he is on your screens. Ended up 9th place in the session. He's out in Q1 for this one. There is also Randy Krummenacher, Neil. Practice, he ended up in 10th.
He did, yeah. And Krummenacher coming here after definitely a disappointing round in Austria 2 weeks ago. Krummenacher, after his first victory in the MotoE World Championship, race 1 at Silverstone, we were thinking, you know what, the Swiss rider might have a bit of a chance, outside chance, to feature in the title fight. going towards the end of the year, but since then it's just fallen away, unfortunately. Crash in race 2 at Silverstone, and then 11th and 7th 2 weeks ago in Austria. Definitely means Krummenacher is out of the title fight. But yeah, you have to imagine he'll be one of the men fighting for the top 2 positions in this session. Fran?
Sorry, yeah, I was going to say, speaking of 7, I think it was 7 minutes in and at turn 7. So, yeah, both of those were actually correct.
There you go then.
Granado, of course, that we were talking about a couple of minutes ago.
And his teammates, Mikel Pons, who runs the number 77, avoiding all the 7s today, is Eric Granado, isn't he? There's Maria Herrera then. Number 6 there, I should say, down in the 152s in the practice sessions there earlier on today, as we're seeing some very, very slow pit exits. Not sure how much you're actually allowed to do that, even in this MotoE category. I know in Moto3, if that was the case, they'd be hot on that and saying, no, penalties for the lot of you, get out of it. But Ryder's been waiting around in pit lane, Neil. I'm supposing that it will be because it is so hot and we'll be only getting a couple of laps out of these tyres then.
Yeah, quite possibly. We have seen that in the qualifying session so far this year, haven't we, Matt? That there have been occasions when first 2-3 laps you post are pretty much going to be the best ones that you'll have at the end of the session. So it definitely will be a bit of pressure on these guys on the first and second laps. That's probably going to be the best time of this session to post the laps.
Quite right. We were looking there at the flying moustache of Kevin Manfredi. It's 8th in the championship. Another quiet Austria for him last time out. We'll get back to that though, as one rider who'll be straight through into Q2 is Alessandro Zacconi, another Italian to Manfredi. He's down in pit lane with Fran. Let's hear from him.
He is indeed. So, Alessandro, I always victimise you. I'm sorry, but you always say yes to talking to us. So you're through to Q2 today. Pretty good session. You're like 8 thousandths behind the championship leader, so that's a pretty good day. How do you think these conditions look now compared to the first 2 sessions you guys have had?
Yeah, for sure. Now it's much more hotter, and also there is some wind. We will see. We test in this winter here, but was more cold, so it's a new condition for us. And we will see. We will try the best.
And what's been the step forward for you so far this weekend? It's going pretty well here in Barcelona. Is it layout, track you like, or have you taken a step elsewhere?
Well, we are just working on the bike. Also in Austria, we did a big step, but I did a big mistake in qualifying, so I start last. But anyway, I'm improving every time my feeling with the bike, so continuing this way to do the best.
Yeah, that's true. You just reminded me, you gambled on the wet, actually had some quite good pace there as well. Thanks for talking to us. Best of luck.
Thank you very much. Ciao.
Thanks very much, Fran. Thanks as well to Alessandro Zacconi. Looking forward to seeing how he does in the next session. First lap time's about to come in. Matt, probably a good time as any to just do a quick recap of what happened back in Austria. We obviously had 2 pretty exciting races in which certain Mattia Casadei took 2 victories and well, really kind of brought his name back into the title fight.
Yeah, he's equally in the title fight as much as Matteo Ferrari was. He's even better than him. He sits now 2nd in the standings with 174 points to Jordi Torres' 189. 100 points left up for grabs, we remind you. Of course, we go to his home circuit just next weekend in Misano. As you say, Neil, a cracking weekend. And Saturday, a proper Super Saturday for Mattia Casadei back in Austria, taking both those victories. The first one, of course, by 1.2 seconds. Well, the second one, even closer, just 0.07 of a second.
Yeah, there was a little element of luck, wasn't there, in race 1 when he took benefit from Matteo Ferrari crashing out of the lead on the final lap. But the second race was basically all his own doing. He didn't need any misfortune from riders up ahead for her to score that victory. As we see a yellow flag in sector number 4 currently.
Oh, it's Rabat's bike has decided to give up the ghost for a bit. I was a bit concerned it'd be Eric Granado, who was on a very, very good lap. Then as he comes across the line now, he goes provisional top, 0.7 of a second quicker than Krummenacher.
Yeah, decent lap time that from Eric Granado. In fact, that is just 1/10 of a second off the quickest time we saw in practice 2 earlier today, set coincidentally enough by Mattia Casadei. And there is the reason for the yellow flag, we imagine.
Yes, it's Kari Kubo's
Kari
gone
Kubo.
down, unfortunately. I thought it was because of Rabat, but that's a secondary issue, it seems then, and a broken screen for a Kubo means that he's definitely been down on a fair bit of damage there. It looks as though he's been down at actual turn 10 then, so the yellow flag in a bit of a different sector there. Has that Rabat's got him going? He has. Oh no, it's Gutierrez, my apologies.
Yeah, that is Gutierrez then, making his second stand-in appearance of the year. Lucas Salvadori is still injured. The Pramax normal MotoE rider alongside Tito Rabat, of course. Gutierrez currently 4th in this session. Yeah, it was a weird one back in Austria, Matt. Jordi Torres, championship leader, wasn't quite on his usual swashbuckling form. 5th and 6th for him. But once again, Jordi showing that when it's not quite his day, he's just there, able to pick up top 6 finishes, good points for the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally right. It wasn't great for Torres, was it? It's such a crucial time of the championship. He could have gone with a much healthier lead into these final 2 races. But now with MotoE, as we know how it goes, even though I would say, on the other hand, he did play it very nicely, consistently, didn't he? A 5th and a 6th is not exactly a horrendous result, and if that's the kind of results you're pulling out of the hat when you're on a bad weekend, then I think that's pretty good for Jordi Torres.
Can I add in there though?
Absolutely.
Obviously, last round of the season, Mazzano, those who've been with us on our electric journey from the start will remember the king of Mazzano, Matteo Ferrari, almost unbeaten there, although not quite by this point. He was on the first few visits there. I think it's very interesting that it's getting tighter and tighter, and those guys are making more and more progress right at the top ahead of, that final showdown on their home turf.
Yeah, absolutely, Fran. I agree with that. Jordi I think he'll have to start attacking again rather than defending like he has been in the last 2 race weekends at Silverstone and Austria. And of course, home track here in Barcelona. Good experience here from his time way back in the Moto2 category. And of course, MotoE's previous visit. Jordi Torres really needs a decent weekend, but we'll get on to him a bit more, I guess, in Q2. Just as this Q1 session comes to an end, it looks as though Eric Granado has decided that he thinks his 148.928 is going to get him through.
Yeah, so parked it up. Seems a bit ready, but Alessio Finello, he's not going to be troubling the absolute top 2 times, I don't think, but certainly could be a better starting position than we've been used to seeing from him so far this year. And as you rightly say, with Granado confident he's now going through, got to recharge the bike, ready for this second qualifying session coming up. However, Krummenacher might be pushing Kevin Zanoni out if he stays on course with this lap time at the moment, a 10th over at the halfway stage of the lap.
Yeah, this could be heartbreak for Kevin Zanoni, who of course had that brilliant weekend 2 weeks ago in Austria. Best ever MotoE race weekend for the flying Italian. 2 third positions. His first podium places in his MotoE career. Pinello comes out of the final turn. It's been a pretty decent lap this from the number 72. Doesn't quite manage to improve though. He'll have another bite off the cherry. Krummenacher, it's touch and go whether he'll get inside the top 2 with this lap time, Matt, you have to say. He really does need a decent final sector to push Zanoni out.
Fair bit came away from him in that third split, didn't it? He might even get one more flying lap in if he so wishes. Across the line he comes now. He's going to make it across before the checker flag comes out. Krummenacher goes third provisionally. A lot lost in those final 2 splits. I mean, how different are the second and third and fourth split, sorry, Neil, than the first half of the lap? Because this track is quite, it's got a bit of everything, isn't it? Stop and start, flowing. I don't really see too much difference in them. Is there?
I'm not really too sure. I mean, the final split is definitely pretty fast, gradually building up speed through turn 12, 13, then 14. As you go downhill, looks as though there hasn't been any solution found to Tito Rabat's woes there. The Spaniard, unfortunately, hasn't been able to get out and set a lap time, which is disastrous for him.
Yeah.
It means Rabat is going to start his home race on the back row of the grid.
Yeah, that's not ideal for him whatsoever, is it? As we'll keep an eye back on Krummenacher though, because he is up at the first split again. What happens though in the second split? Is he crossed it? Wow, he lost so much time in the second split, unfortunately. Now a 10th over there, and I mean, just not really working out for him in other places, but at least he's got some speed in his pocket for turn 1 tomorrow. Could be seeing him coming through from further down on the grid, because I don't think he's going to claw this back in the final stage of the lap time now.
Yeah, I don't think so. Krummenacher did lose big amounts of time just there. You can see he's just 2/10 away in sector 3. If he does manage to hold that, he will get a spot inside the top 2, but it all depends on this final sector through turns 12, 13 and 14. The Swiss rider will need to be absolutely perfect to maintain this time and get into the top 2.
Still on for a personal best through the third split then. He'll be coming round the final call then. Krummenacher needs to pull out an exit of the final turn of his life to actually have a hope of going through to Q2. Be coming across the line. There he is, the number 3 personal best, but still misses out. Unfortunately, that's Krummenacher not going through to Q2. Instead, it will be Granado and Kevin Zanoni.
Yeah, big disappointment from Krummenacher. It was all going so well up until that first victory at Silverstone. Since then, he just hasn't quite been able to recapture that form. Not even as much as a smile for Eric Granado. That was just a case of job done for the Brazilian. And you can see there that he's just 1/10 of a second, or less than 1/10 of a second actually, away from the new MotoE lap record at this circuit, the Barcelona Catalunya. Granado will be looking to replicate those feats in a couple of minutes' time.
Of course, actually, they had their second practice session right at midday, so it's probably just as hot then as it is now. I don't think the asphalt will be heating up much more than what it was back then. So, yeah, conditions will be fairly similar to what we saw then for the second qualifying session. So, Krummenacher, a bit of disappointment for him.
Yeah, big disappointment for Rabat as well. He was a race winner here in his Moto2 days back in 2014. So, huge disappointment for Tito. Didn't even get out to set a full flying lap. And
can we just add a shout out to Oscar Gutierrez again? It's no mean feat now. I know he's had one weekend under his belt, but that's, you know, what, about an hour and a quarter combined track time, hour and a half on a MotoE bike. That's not a bad job, that. Not at the back this time either.
Exactly. If I wanted to join the Oscar Gutierrez fan club, Fran, how would I do that? Well, actually, we'll come back to you, because here we have the results from qualifying 1. Eric Granado, fastest off the lot with a 148.928, ahead of Kevin Zanoni. Both of those guys going through to Q2.
Well, then we also have Randy Krummenacher. He'll be lining up behind the last of the Q2 finishers in third place in this session. Then Gutierrez 4th, Finello 5th. That's probably one of the best performances we've seen from the Italian there at the end of this one. Manfredi Perez Herrera, then the last of the finishers in this session. Herrera, big time improving on her lap from P2 earlier on, I should say. And of course, no time set, unfortunately, for the likes of Rabat and Kubo. That crash from Kubo, a technical issue for Rabat, putting them out of contention. Don't go anywhere then, because we have the roll for pole coming up next. Granado and Zanoni going through there. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you very shortly. Well, thank you for sticking with us then. The Catalunya Grand Tour, a journey full of journeys. What journey will you go on, ladies and gentlemen, here in Catalunya? To the circuit? Maybe. Very nice. If you do come here though, go and make sure you come like in the winter and have some calçots. They're like giant spring onions with a really delicious sauce, and they're very nice, aren't they, Neil? You must have had calçots many times. Neil, a resident of these parts. There we go then. 28 degrees Celsius. Seriously hot. 114 degrees Fahrenheit track temperature. Wowee. Scorchio, so it is. Here is the lineup then for qualifying 2. Is it pre-qualifying? Oh, this is the... Why does it say pre-qualifying? Does it normally say that? I don't think it does it?
It does. I noticed that in Austria. I think it just means before.
Ah, okay, so we're currently before qualifying, so obviously, there we go. Pre. Casadei, Ferrari, Spinelli. Your lineup. 3 Italians top there, along with a 4th in the shape of Andrea Mantovani. Hector Garzo and Jordi Torres, Alessandro Zacconi and Mikel Pons were seeded through from their practice 2 lap times. Then, of course, we've got additions of Eric Granado and Kevin Zanoni as well. So, big hitters in this one, fighting it out for pole position, and it really, really matters. We know in MotoE with the shorter races how much a top grid position can really impact things. So they need to be putting it all out there to see how we go. So, let's head down to pit lane before we get going properly. Fran Wilder's caught up with Roberto Cane from Ducati.
I have indeed. So, Roberto, I was saying to those guys in their ear, this is the only venue where we had a test and now we have a race weekend, as we didn't race in Jerez. What have you learnt from Friday and a bit more track time here with higher temperatures, and quite a lot of the season has already gone by this point?
You're right. The season, yes, is almost over. Anyway, we are still learning a lot from the races. And now we have different behavior because we are not running as fast as during the tests. So we'll have to think about. We have other data to work on. Maybe it's the wind that is strong on the straight. But anyway, we'll have to work on that.
It's quite a lot hotter as well today.
Yes, it's also very, very hot. Maybe the tires are suffering a little bit, the bikes too. We will see.
We will see. Well, we'll catch up with you when you've got more to report. Thank you, as always.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thanks very much, Fran. Thanks as well to Roberto Cane, one of the most enthusiastic men in the paddock. Always great to hear from Ducati's head of electric mobility, R&D. And, well, a little disappointed, it seems, that they're not quite matching the times from pre-season here when they went testing at this very venue. But still, Mattia Casadei's lap record in P2 earlier today was still, I think, 1.9 seconds under the previous MotoE lap record. In fact, sorry, Matt, I tell a lie. It was 1.8 seconds.
For goodness sake, Neil, how many years have we been doing this and just lying to the viewers like that? Disgusting behaviour. Excellent stuff then. So still very, very fast, these new Ducatis here at the Circuit of Barcelona, Catalunya. We just saw the main person that's been on the naughty step lately in Matteo Ferrari for a variety of reasons, being a naughty boy with the stewards and things like that, and crashing under yellow flags, and then, well, he threw away a victory back in Austria, didn't he, Neil? I mean, Matteo, this is not you. What's happened?
Yeah, but he made up for it in race 2, you would say.
Did, yeah, absolutely. I can't bag on him too much.
I was going to say, that's going back to Silverstone now. How long until this record is expunged? Austria was a very clean weekend, stewards-wise. Just did the Casadei replay from last year in race 1.
Yeah, quite, exactly. But Ferrari, you might have lost second place in the championship, but still just 16 points back of Torres with, as Matt said earlier, 100 still in play. That is still well within his reach, you would have to say, especially with Misano coming up, and a place where he knows, loves, and has won at before. But this is the man of the moment, Mattia Casadei. I think we were asking ourselves, had anyone won 3 races on the trot in the MotoE class before? It's been done just once before, Eric Granado last year.
Ah, well, there you go. So that's what the question we had at the end of it. Go on, Fran.
You can say 3 full-length races in a row, because it was that one that was as Assen. It was really short, and 12.5 points were given for the win. So it is technically 3 in a row, but if you want to embellish, you can find something in there for Mattia as well.
Yeah, and Casadei earlier today was in sensational form here during combined practice, finishing top of practice 2 with a 1:48.832. A new lap record, as I previously said, in this category. And Casadei bringing that really strong form from Silverstone and Austria here to Barcelona. Can he manage to claw back further ground on Jordi Torres? He was up here fighting at the front back in 2021 when we were last here. Crashed out of a pretty epic fight for victory on that occasion. But I feel it's a different man this time around that's coming to these shores.
Yeah, it could well be. I agree with you there, Neil. I think it's also important to note with Casadei as well in those practice, half a second he was ahead of the rest of the field then. So that's quite a gap. I mean, half a second covers most of the Q2 seeded riders in MotoE, doesn't it? That kind of pace. So very, very impressive indeed. The big question though is, can you convert that into qualifying pace as well? We're looking at the race winner here from Barcelona back in 2021. That's Mikel Pons for Palma de Mallorca. A stone's throw from here. If you get a really good skim on a stone from the shores of Barceloneta, you might be able to hit a house in Palma de Mallorca. That's how close it is. Not really that close. My grandma was a very good skimmer though. She's very, very good at that. Here is Matteo Ferrari then, coming across the line to start a flying lap. The number 11 then, down in third in the championship standings after Austria. Probably the first time that he's been out of third position since maybe out of second position, sorry, since maybe the start of the season, Neil, perhaps, or nearer the start of the season. Of course, it did not get off to a roaring start for Ferrari in that very first race in Le Mans, where he threw it down the road in a leading position, but he backed it up, came back, fought back, and got his first victory in MotoE off of Italian soil at the French round. And that's where he kicked off his 3 victories of the season.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to see just how fast Eric Granado is in this session. We didn't really get to see him at all in PT earlier, but he certainly showed earlier in Q1 there that he has the speed to maybe challenge Mattia Casadei for pole position.
I was going to say about Eric, what happened in the second race. Oh, blimey! Oh, dearie, dearie me. Just as I was about to say that Eric Granado, he crashed out in Austria. He's just had a massive accident, completely coming out of pit lane at turn 1. Goodness me, what happened there? Because that is a big, big high side just at the first touch of the throttle, Neil.
Very, very strange. You couldn't say that his tyres are going to be particularly cold there. Was that maybe an issue with his bike? Because that looked like a massive high side when Eric didn't really do a great deal wrong. Let's hope that the Brazilian is okay. Understandably, yellow flags are still out in the first sector of this track. But Granado, well, didn't see him getting to his feet just then. See Matteo Ferrari sees the yellow flags and is taking a good deal of caution as he comes into turn 1, thankfully. And Granado, well,
he's up and walking away then.
So he's on his feet.
Goodness me, that was vicious, wasn't it? I mean, good grief. Yeah, that's very unpleasant for Eric Granado, of course. Obviously wishing him all the best, and hope that hit to the head wasn't too fierce. But you don't like to see those sorts of accidents, or any at all, but especially ones of those level of viciousness, as the riders all starting to slow down with these waved yellows in towards turn 1. So their laps will all count from that time around, but this next one will not, obviously, with the yellow flag situation going on at turn 1. There's Torres, so he's provisional pole position. 5 minutes left on the clock. My goodness, that was a big old accident.
Yeah, and good time that from Jordi Torres. That is a new lap record for MotoE at this track. Good to see Eric Granado up on his feet. We're going to see a replay of that. So Granado wasn't really, I mean, he was taking it very, very steady coming out. I'm not sure if he just gave it a little too much gas here, but it didn't even look like he was on the gas, to be honest.
He just switched his hand back over to go through the corner, and away it went. I mean, my goodness, yeah, no wonder he needs a bit of a help up. I mean, would not be surprised to. I mean, yeah, he's kind of shaking a little bit there too. I mean,
understandably so.
I mean, it would not surprise me if we saw Eric Granado out of action tomorrow after a hit like that. Goodness me, I mean, poor thing.
Yeah, so Granado, that's a shame. It's deflated us slightly seeing poor Eric suffer that crash down at turn 1, but we still have 4 minutes to go. And there's still yellow flags in Sector 1, so that means that this lap time is going to be cancelled for Matteo Ferrari as well. That means 2 of his laps in this session won't count. And it'd be interesting to know whether he'll have any tyre left by the time he finishes this lap to try and improve. Yellow flags have been taken away.
Oh, well, there we go.
That's going to be a bit of a disadvantage then for Ferrari. Not for these guys, though. They're going to be able to take advantage of the 3rd flying laps of this session. Torres still fastest then with the 148.7. 0.127 back in 2nd is Casadei. Zanoni is 3rd with a lap time that's almost a 1/4 of a second off. And then Mikel Pons also 0.27 off in 4th.
Well, here comes Torres then, down in towards turn 1, the rear wheel skating all over the place. So 3 minutes to go then, and we will have a bit more of a qualifying session to finish then. Torres all out on his own. This could be some good laps. The only rider who really sort of got caught out by the yellow flags, you would say then, is Ferrari, but he's you can see from the times he's relaxing this lap, 2 seconds, nearly 3 off the pace, not trying to overcook his tyres. He'll get one more go at it. You say, oh, that was a big dark line coming off the rear wheel of Mantovani then. So some good laps coming in, Neil. Everyone quicker in that first sector then. Red helmets all over the place. Plenty of riders in touch at the second split too. I'm not surprised. But a 148.7, how does that compare to practice times? That is 1/10 of a second quicker than Casadei.
Yeah, exactly. Excellent stuff from Torres, who hasn't been looking maybe the strongest throughout today in the practice sessions, but has managed to pull it out off the bag on this occasion. Could this be his 3rd pole off the year? I feel a couple of these guys are going to have something to say about that, not least this man, Mattia Casadei. What can he do coming out off the final turn? A 10th off through Sector 3, but across the line, he is less than a 10th off. He narrows it down to 0.093. 2nd for Casadei. 3rd for Mantovani, 7th for Garzo. So lots of movements there in the top 7. And look at this from Ferrari. He's up through split number 1.
Yeah, really impressive from the Italian then. But Casadei faster through the first split as well then. Ferrari losing a bit in the second split too. Yeah, really good laps coming in now with red sectors all over the board. Who's looking quick as Garzo's on a good one, 0.2 of a second under at that first split for the Spaniard. As we watch Ferrari come round to on the back straight then, he'll be crossing the 3rd split. Then has he lost any more time in that 3rd split? Barely any, so well in touch at this point then. Could be seeing a 1st or 2nd row sort of time for him at the moment.
Yeah, the only problem is there's a host of red crash helmets on our timing screens from the other guys who could well be on their final laps of this session. Let's see what Matteo Ferrari can do as he comes down through turn 12, the penultimate, or sorry, turn 13, the penultimate turn on this track, into the final bend around Catalunya, as turn 14 is known. Guns it out of there across the line, and he remains in 6th, just 0.373 back of Jordi Torres. So not quite ideal from Ferrari, but he will at least get one more bite of the cherry.
Yeah, exactly that. And to be fair, if it ends up in a 6th place finish, that's in qualifying, and a 6th place start, I would certainly say that's in pretty good shape heading down towards turn 1 at a track like this to try and be in contention for the win still, don't you say? So across the line they come. Seems rather easy, in inverted commas, to set a quick first sector, but the key will be in the rest of the track to pull it all together. So that's all the riders across the line then, ready to start, pardon me, a final flying lap. Have they saved their tyres enough? I'm not sure. What about Garzo then? What's happening here? A bit of a moment then going into that right-hander. Just a small twitch. Torres is back in. He's done it. That's it. That's all he can manage here today. We've got some red sectors then at the first split. Who's up the most? I would say Mantovani up at the most there. Very impressive first split. He's off the back of this group then, chasing down Garza, who's also up at the first split as well. They come around this corner, turn 5 here, the plunge down towards turn 6, through the split there. Second section, look how much time they lose in that second split in comparison. He's a little bit wide there as well. Ferrari, though, on another good lap. So, through the final corner he comes. I don't think anybody's going to improve, Neil.
I don't think so, man. Yeah, it looks as though Ferrari half a second off. I can't see him making up much time there. It looked as though he might have exceeded track limits as well, coming out of the final turn. Ferrari stays in 6th. No improvements on that last lap time. I think the same could be said for the rest of the field that are currently on track.
Well then, so that'll be it then. Jordi Torres on pole, Neil. I mean, just as we were saying that he had a duff Austrian Grand Prix, looks like he'll be claiming pole position here in Barcelona. Effectively the home race for his Aspar team. Starting from pole, leading the championship with 100 points to go. I mean, that's how it's done. There we go then. They're all crossing the line and nobody improves. How about it then? Big news, though, will be that Eric Granado is someone who had big pace and is always a threat for the win. A big old crash.
Mantovani, well, punching the air there as he sees his name up inside the top 3 as he looks at one of the screens coming through turn 1. It's a good performance from the Italian, who has been so spectacular to watch on certain occasions this year. I'll make that Mantovani's first front row start in MotoE, so good work from the number 9.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good stuff from him. Really good stuff. So, well then, we turn our attention then to racing tomorrow. 2 races, one at the lunchtime, one at the end of the day. Casadei, second place by under a 900ths of a second, under a 10th of a second. That should be.
Well, it's beautifully set up, you have to say. 1 and 2 in the championship, 1 and 2 on the grid. And Jordi Torres, who in conversation then with Nico Tarot. Great effort from Torres right at the start of that session. New lap record, as you just saw there. And as we said, 3rd pole position of the year for the Spaniard. Matteo Ferrari, maybe a little unfortunate to catch the yellow flags down at turn 1 when he did. That was probably when he had the kind of ideal grip level from his tyres. Struggled to really impact the top 3 after that. But 6th on the grid is by no means a disaster. Good performance from that man, Mattia Casadei. I'm sure he thought after practice that maybe a pole position, the first pole of the year, might be a shoe-in. But 2nd place, decent effort nonetheless.
Certainly so, yeah. Casadei then does his lap of honour, coming back in after a front row start, then waving to the fans that have stayed around for this MotoE qualifying session earlier than they normally have. We normally have about an hour's gap after the MotoGP session, don't we? But straight after, so fresh Michelin rubber laid down by the MotoGP bikes. MotoE here as well. So we're hearing from riders shortly in Parc Fermé. I can see down in pit lane, one of the technical people just looking to do the technical, I think, tyre allocation checks or something, just frantically waving towards Sakone's bike. Please come here. Oh,
yeah, they head out of pit lane earlier than where they have the normal technical control signs. They have to make sure that they manage to grab them.
Oh, there you go. Very enthusiastic folks. There is Mantovani then. 3rd place for him. Probably the best result we've seen from him since that win in Mugello, Neil.
Yeah, absolutely. He looks pretty happy. And credit to the people putting the music on over the PA. Fame blast them out as these guys come in to Parc Fermé.
Actually, I can't hear it in my headset. They had a Green Day earlier on during practice. Also, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Californication on there as well. And
Awful.
And that. What? No. Come
The
on,
national anthem of Jorge Lorenzo.
Oh, come on. Neil's taste in music. Not always that question, actually. Normally very good. But can't knock that. I mean, come on. No. There is Mantovani.
You can, and I will.
Oh, right. Sassy. All right. See how it goes. Okay. We'll be hearing from the riders in Parc Ferme very shortly. Hopefully, very, very soon, we can hear from Mantovani. Chatting with Fran to see how that lap went. How were the conditions then? There he is then, the number 9, coming down to talk to our own Fran Wild.
So, Andrea, you're already a race winner, and now you've got that front row as well. Are you happy with that?
Yes, I'm very happy. For me, it's the first first podium in qualify. I'm very happy, but I want to happy hour more, but it's not possible because this motorbike is not possible to wheel. Okay, Ducati changed them up, but it's perfect. I'm very happy. The team is fantastic. Ciao tutti.
Thanks, congrats, Andrea.
Great stuff, Mantovani.
Lost for words.
No words, absolutely no words. That's my favourite phrase in this whole paddock. That is like, yeah, no words. Okay, that won't do for a Parc Ferme interview. So yeah, great stuff from him. What about Mattia Casadei then? On the run then, second on the grid for tomorrow. How does he feel about it, Fran?
Well, Mattia, you had an advantage in practice, but in that session we had that slightly strange crash for Eric, yellow flags for a long time, interrupted it for everyone. Are you happy enough with second?
I'm happy. We have a very good feedback from the bike, and I'm happy. Unfortunately, the yellow flag stopped my second fast lap, but it's good. P2 is always good. I'm ready to do a very good race. Thanks for the team for the bike, because for me we are a very good deliver and ready for do a very good 2 races.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Well, can Mattia Casadei become the first man in MotoE history to win 4 races back to back? He'll certainly be aiming to do that tomorrow, and he sounded very quietly confident. I know he's always quietly confident, but particularly so on that occasion.
I don't think I've ever heard Mattia Casadei not very happy in a Parc Ferme interview before, so given how many years he's now been in MotoE. Hey, what about Jordi Torres though? He's got to be over the moon with that. How does he feel about it, Fran?
He seems very happy with it. Jordi, congratulations, back on pole position. That was a bit of a strange session, but you seem to plan it perfectly. You're first on the grid and you arrived to Parc Ferme first with some time to spare as well. Congrats.
Yeah, you can expect of this last piece of the season that can is the show we can offer, no? Because we are very close together. In this session we try to do 100%, try to squeeze as maximum, try to move my way to take advantage on the exit of the corner, something like this. I try to do 100% because we need to beat a lot the maximum that I can possible, because after in Misano we'll see what happens, but for sure it's a race home for my rivals. You know, in here is very special, and it's very important to stay on focus and working like this.
First mission accomplished. Congrats.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Look at that glistening smile. Jordi Torres then, pole position for tomorrow's races. Excellent stuff. That's what he needed to do, isn't it, Neil?
Absolutely. Interesting as well that he made the point that the next race is the home race for his rivals, so he does need to maybe open up a bit more of an advantage here tomorrow. Well, he's set himself up well with a 3rd pole position of the year.
There we go then. Pole position, 148.7, the fastest lap of the day here in MotoE across the 2 practice sessions and 2 qualifying sessions. There we have it. So, Casadei, 2nd place on the grid for tomorrow's races. Mantovani 3rd. Zanoni, Ponza, Ferrari are your 2nd row, followed by Garzo, Spinelli and Zacconi. We hope for some good news about Eric Granado after that nasty fall in exiting pit lane. Krumenaka, Gutierrez, Finello, Manfredi, Perez, Herrera and Rabat, along with Akubo, are your lineup for tomorrow's races. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you tomorrow. Ciao for now.